All right, joining us now, Jack Brewer, former golfer, former Viking, and now, believe it or not, an ambassador to the United Nations. Thanks so much for coming back. And tonight, you were here to show your support for the Starkey Hearing Foundation. What an event that was tonight.
It's amazing every year, you know, when you see what Bill and Tanny Austin have done with the Starkey Foundation, affecting hundreds of thousands of people all over the world, giving the gift of hearing to some of the poorest people on earth. It's truly amazing to be a part of it, and just excited to continue to be a strong partner, Starkey.
Yeah, it is such a great event. Now, before we chat about the Vikings and Gophers, I want to get into a different route with you tonight. You've always been a person that has spoke his mind from the very beginning, involved in so many things, even when you were a player. And we're seeing that now from more athletes with the turmoil that's overtaken the country. And last night, Torii Hunter used a part of his speech at the Hall of Fame to take away from his time in the spotlight to show other people what needs to be done. Here's an example of what Torii said last night.
This is the United States of America. The word united means togetherness. United we stand, divided we fall. A house divided cannot stand. We have seen a lot of hate being displayed. We are not born with hate. Hate is a learned behavior. H-A-T-E, habits acquired through evil.
So Torii steps up to the plate last night, tells everyone basically to love everyone, no matter what their color of skin or religion or anything else. And then last week, the Lynx got involved, and they were sporting the warm-up t-shirts supporting Black Lives Matter and also the Dallas Police Force. Is this the right time for athletes like the Lynx and Torii Hunter to be stepping up like this?
Yes, it is. We have to step up as leaders, as athletes, former athletes, really anyone who has an impact on your community, the kids of the community, the future. You know, Torii's a great, great man. State of Minnesota is lucky to have him, you know, for the second time around. He's a friend of mine, and I have the ultimate respect for him. And to use your platform and really highlight something that's going on in our country right now that we all need to focus on. And we all need to take a little time to soul search to see what we can do to improve our own communities. And I think, you know, it's admirable to see what Torii has done. The same with the Minnesota Lynx. I think more and more athletes need to come out and use their platform. It's our obligation. Young kids look up to us. We get that spotlight, we get the opportunity to always be in the media's eye. And so, you know, right now this country is hurting, and we've got to figure out a way to bring peace and love back to our communities.
Now, are they running a risk? Now, Torii's obviously retired now, so it's a little bit easier for him, but when you're a member of an organization like the Lynx, to get yourself involved while you're still playing the sport, and it could have some backlash for some players.
It can, and I think in our society now, that's our problem. You know, the Lynx come out and they say and support Black Lives Matter, and all of a sudden, people on the other side assume that they don't support police officers. And the same thing goes, you know, when I stand up next to men and women who have lost their husbands or wives as fallen officers, people come back and say, well, Black Lives Matter. No one's promoting anything other than that, right? Black lives can matter as the same as blue lives can matter. We need to stop the divide. We need to stop the divisiveness and the rhetoric that's just filling our media. You know, thank God we have people like you, Jim, who allow us to have a real conversation about these things, but a lot of media outlets don't do that. And that's unfortunate, and we've got to get to a point in this country where we can actually speak our mind and understand each other and not automatically be put into some category that really doesn't exist.
All right, now you have gotten involved in a very unique way with a movement called Stand2Protect.
Yeah.
Explain.
So Stand2Protect came, it was a vision that we had, and we started our Trust to Protect campaign over 7 months ago, bringing together professional athletes, influencers, really to try to bridge that gap between communities and police officers. You know, we've seen all the violence that's going on. We've seen, you know, young African-American men being killed and police officers not even being prosecuted and thrown in jail. At the same time, we've seen some horrific events with civilians murdering police officers in cold blood, and you know, this is not a good situation. We talk a lot about things that go on in the Middle East and a lot of turmoil that goes on internationally, but this is happening right at home. We have a crisis going on, and so our Stand to Protect campaign is just asking normal Americans, stand up. What do you stand for? Do you stand to protect your communities? If you really do, take that stand. You know, sign our petition. We're trying to pass some make sense laws and really put together a national police protocol where police officers can be equipped with the information and the technologies to keep themselves safe and keep our community safe. And at the same time, we're asking for, you know, any crime committed by a police officer or against a police officer in regards to a murder or attempted murder to be treated as a federal offense, so we can take a lot of the bias out of the process.
Exactly, so people don't think it's a hometown deal, so to speak, for someone.
Yeah, that's why people are out rioting. It's not because, you know, I hate to say this, but police officers have been killing particularly African American men for almost 500 years. But when they don't go to jail, that's when people have an issue, and that's when people have to come out and really raise their voices. And I think, you know, we need to realize that as a country that we have a history of racial issues that hasn't gone away. I'm 37 years old. Both of my parents went to segregated high schools. Not high schools, but elementary schools, like the segregated schools. So whenever you have that history of racism, like, you gotta talk about it, and you gotta have that dialogue, and it's okay. You know, it's okay to admit that we had some wrongs, and a lot of people do, and so we're getting there hopefully as a nation, but we have a long way to go.
How do people get involved? How do they get to your information? Where do they go? How do they become a part of this?
Go to trusttoprotect.org, or you can go to our Stand to Protect campaign, and that's Stand, the number 2, protect.org, and you can sign our petition, and hopefully you support us. You know, we're posting pictures. We have a lot of different people that have gotten involved. We try to make it fun and bring a little bit of love back in the community. We've been all over the country, and we'll continue. We've had some incredible launch events in various cities, and so, you know, it's been very positive feedback, and I think people want to hear a neutral voice. They don't want to have to pick a side. You know, we have a hashtag called Black and Blue Lives Matters, and that's what we need to be talking in this country about, togetherness and not divisiveness.